Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello everyone, and thanks once again for joining us for this Tuesday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting this evening's broadcast. Up first, the river breakup map. Again, no ice jams occurring anywhere. In fact, it looks like there's at least some open here on all the rivers, even up around the Noatak River up in there that was ice just 2 days ago, all white. They're now showing some open there, just about the entire stretch of both rivers. North Slope Rivers, Colville, and the other one still pretty much ice, as well as the Porcupine River back through here. Just a little spot there of some open, but mostly ice there from the Yukon back into Canada. And really everything pretty well broke up on down to the south. Rolling into satellite imagery from yesterday, we had, again, a lot of sunshine here in the western interior. Moisture and clouds there over the east side, gradually diminishing through the day, but then with the afternoon heating, had some scattered thunderstorms developing with a few showers here in the cloudy areas through the central interior from south, actually almost all the way down to the Talkeetnas, back out to the west, but clear skies all the way to the southwest coast until you got to the outer edge of the cirrus moving onshore associated with that next front here that brought the rain to the eastern Aleutians and Alaska Peninsula yesterday. And again, we had some showers, an upper level disturbance exiting the southeast coast there. That kept showers in a fair amount of the day yesterday, but a lot of clearing occurring here, high pressure off the coast. So all that had to do is scoot on out and nothing but sunshine, which was pretty much the case today. Now, there were some lower clouds hugging the coastline that don't really show up here on this imagery at all, as well as the North Gulf Coast, some lower clouds that were along the coast again, but a lot of sunshine there. We've got that front now pushing across the Gulf of Alaska, heading in toward the area there, and stalled out back here across Kodiak Island. Actually had some gale force winds with that into Bristol Bay and back across the Barrens earlier today. A narrow band of minimum gale force winds, but pretty brisk conditions there. And rainfall amounts last 24 hours are anywhere from 1 to 1.5 inches falling along the upslope areas of the Alaska Peninsula here. Otherwise, really dropping off as you head north. And still a lot of sunshine. Southwest interior, especially the Yukon Delta, some clouds rolling into the Kuskokwim Delta, Kuskokwim Valley. Lots of sunshine today, temperatures rising into the 60s and lower 70s right through the interior. And then clouds developing with right through here over the border, starting out clear, but in the afternoon, clouds building up quite rapidly and a band of thunderstorms developing along that same cloud feature there earlier this afternoon. Otherwise, probably some isolated showers, maybe an isolated thunderstorm as well, developing in the clouds back to the west, possible any one of the taller clouds. Then upper level disturbance here off the northwest coast, responsible for this area of clouds, but most of the snowfall back to the west. But there were a few flurries or unknown precipitation reported at Point Hope, or Cape Lisburne actually, and otherwise just kind of a cloudy day for the Arctic coast there with patchy areas of fog, a few flurries over toward Kaktovik. Otherwise, the eastern North Slope, they're not looking bad. Again, building clouds, cumulus there around Arctic Village. And out to the west, got the main low center right there, just north of the eastern Aleutians here, south of the Pribilofs. Showers on the north side scattered, another trough swinging southward here, bringing another round of rain, and pretty gusty north to northwest winds will be following that in behind as well. A weaker trough through here, and then the main front from the center, again bringing the rain across Bristol Bay and turning more showery over the Alaska Peninsula, wet conditions into Kodiak, and then this area of thunderstorm activity over the eastern part of the state, right along the border or just to the west of the border. And then a few flurries in the Arctic coast. Upper level trough back through here, cold pool aloft. And that's going to keep a chance of that'll keep clouds in with a chance of light snow in the area there for the next couple of days. But for tonight, again, clouds back up along the coast here of the Panhandle, maybe some isolated showers or actually drizzle there on the south coast along Prince of Wales Island or back to the west. That front edging eastward, but really slowing down, starting to weaken considerably, really washing out, but holding together enough to increase the rainfall, spread it up the east side of the Kenai Peninsula, right into western Prince William Sound throughout the night tonight, and that will also spread eastward to about Cordova, and that'll lift north of Kodiak, but another batch here, a developing front, will spread more rain in across the southern Kodiak Island area from Sitkinak on up in across southern central Shelikof Strait, probably reaching the state airport sometime after midnight or toward morning. Otherwise, a narrow band of precipitation here with the original front there coming across Togiak Bay, Cape Newenham, but getting a little more showery as it breaks up toward the Pribilofs. And looks like a majority of the showers here will be along or south of the Alaska Peninsula and eastern Aleutians, kind of a break right through here in conditions. And northeast winds or northeast breezes over the northern Bering Sea, dry weather there, and gusty north to northwest winds here for the western Aleutians and on in toward Adak with showers. Those showers cut off right around Amchitka or Kiska Island. And then up to the north, that upper level low really not showing up here at the surface. We have more of a thermal feature there east of the Seward Peninsula at about 1,002 millibars. So look for lots of clear skies tonight through the central interior. Maybe an isolated shower around Denali Park, but that's roughly about it. Variable clouds. General increase in the clouds here at Cook Inlet, as I mentioned, as that system comes northward with increasing chances of rain. And flying conditions dropping down, probably starting to head down toward marginal VFR for the Lake Clark Pass possibly, but rainy staying VFR as well as definitely the eastern Alaska range. And then looking ahead to tomorrow, this original front really washes out, just about dissipates here with maybe just a few clouds reaching the Panhandle. So another partly to mostly day with any shower activity. Looks like it'll be off over into Canada, and that'll be pretty isolated at that. But this front here, call it a cold front, will bring rain or keep the rain that does come in with that southerly flow. Could be maybe moderate on at times there, especially not so much tomorrow, but probably Thursday for the southern Kenai Peninsula. But the interior, not much change from today, with temperatures back into the 60s to lower, maybe even mid-70s here from the Kuskokwim Valley up across the Tanana into the 40-mile country and maybe even up into the Koyukuk and Yukon Flats areas. Could see some isolated thunderstorms developing here over toward the border once again, and possibly back on the western edge of that upper level circulation there that's keeping the clouds and flurries, fog, low flying conditions there along the northwest coast in across the Noatak Valley, mostly north of Kotzebue Sound. Risk of a flurry there on the central Arctic coast, dry to the east, but winds remain light up in that area across the entire area through the Chukchi Sea into the Bering Strait, looking pretty light in the winds there, high pressure over the Russian Far East as well as the Bering, but north to northeast flow not all that strong, and kind of really dying back here out over the western Aleutians, but staying breezy there from about Atka over toward Nikolsky. And the outlook for Thursday, haven't got the map here, but it looks like a little more extensive area of thunderstorms developing here up over the northeast interior for Thursday. This front kind of just continues to wash out. Leftover moisture keeps it mostly cloudy, partly mostly cloudy. Chance of showers or light rain, again, Prince William Sound, Kenai Peninsula. And not a lot of change in store for the Panhandle. And the Arctic coast really not looking for much change as well with winds or sky conditions, as this system here actually will swing off to the northeast and bring a round of light snow to the eastern Arctic coast, eastern north slope early on Thursday, and then that'll lift north off the coast in the afternoon for improving conditions, especially along the eastern north slope. So looking at temperatures, one more time, there we go. Temperatures here for the southeast coast today, nice mid-60s, 66 at Skagway, And down at AKwx, also 66 degrees. Over at Stewart, 68, 63 at Annette. And cooler with the marine clouds, marine layer there, 54 Sitka, and 45 Elfin Cove. Otherwise, Yakutat up to a nice 62. And 50s for the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, but Seward just 48 degrees. Lower to mid 40s for Kodiak Island, kind of chilly there, but Kenai up to 60, 62 in Palmer, and a 66 degree reading at Talkeetna, Gulkana, and McCarthy this afternoon, as well as Northway. Fairbanks close to 70 at 69, 71 over at Tanana, and McGrath coming in with 70 degrees. These are 4 o'clock readings. Up to the north, Fort Yukon close to 70 as well, with Bettles 65, 57 in Anatuvik. Upper 20s here, eastern Arctic coast, and the 36 there at Etchesuk, 34 at Wainwright, 32 over at Point Lay. And then the range here from 37 at Kivalina to 50 degrees at Kotzebue, back down to 30 at Shishmaref, up to 52 south side of the peninsula there at Nome. Lower 50s to lower 60s at St. Michael with 63 degrees, Amonic 54, 48 Macoriac, and Bethel 10 degrees cooler down the river there from McGrath, 35 over at Gamble. Pribilof's right around 40 this afternoon, both St. Paul and St. George, with the Unalaska temperature at 45 degrees. Cooler as you head west, lower 40s dropping to just 39 out at Shemia. Otherwise, Cold Bay came in with 50, as did Chignik, 50 degrees, and roughly near 50 all the way up to King Salmon. Looking at the lows for tonight, we've got 40s, lower to mid, maybe some upper 30s here, eastern interior, but pretty mild right through here from northeast to southwest, and then falling back to the upper 30s out along the coast. North of the mountains, all in the 20s for the North Slope and Arctic coast, and mid-20s to near 30 here for the northwest areas with that cold upper level trough in that area. Upper 30s in the Aleutians, lower 40s Alaska Peninsula, upper 30s to mid-40s for the southeast coast. Highs tomorrow, again back into the mid-60s, lower out toward the coastline, but mid to upper 60s, the lower to mid 70s here. Warmest area right through the central interior. Again, that's where you'd see any mid 70s occurring at, but 70-degree isotherm almost all the way up to Fort Yukon and Bettles. 50s and 60s the Brooks Range. Lower 30s all the way out to the Arctic coast with another nice day. Looks like 60 to 65 or better here over the southeast coast, and it's holding in the 50s out right along the coast, 40s out west. Flying weather tomorrow, showing some IFR, mostly due to the lower cloud deck that's out there as opposed to the moisture with that incoming front. So look for some IFR possibly reaching Port Alexander, maybe Sitka, and marginal VFR, a little bit more extensive than that, but staying generally VFR in the inside waters. That whole mess extending across the Gulf of Alaska, but staying along or south of the coast. But that's going to be increasing here, especially late tonight and through the day tomorrow. Marginal VFR coming onto the coast of the Kenai Peninsula, back into kind of a split here on either side of the peninsula and areas of over the southeast Bering. Otherwise, we've got some pretty good VFR interior, northern Bering Sea, and surprisingly, VFR in the forecast for the Arctic coast and North Slope, the entire area. But that changes tomorrow afternoon, and a big swath of IFR develops here, western North Slope extending back out toward the eastern Arctic coast, also here through the Chukchi Sea. And now we've got a big area of IFR over the eastern Bering Sea, dropping southward to the north shores of the Fox Islands and close to Atka. Definitely Pribilof socked in with IFR tomorrow afternoon. And then the southern coast of the Kenai Peninsula, IFR there, marginal VFR into Prince William Sound, especially on the west side here, possibly staying VFR maybe toward Valdez, and then again staying VFR across the Panhandle. Passes, Anatuvik and Atigan, both VFR. There'll be some clouds, but ceiling should stay above the threshold there that would make it marginal. But Lake Clark and Merrill, definitely deteriorating conditions. Ceilings coming down, mostly or on the eastern entrance. If it goes VFR, it'll be on the eastern approach of both passes. Rainy though will be in the clear VFR conditions. Windy, same forecast, as well as Isabel, Mentasta. Another great day. Same thing for Tanita. Portage though, again VFR sliding down to marginal conditions. Just a slight chance it could go IFR in the eastern approach, but just look for a downward trend throughout the day. And for Chilcoot and White, another nice VFR kind of day. Freezing levels, warmest air, again, summertime pattern here up over the central interior, cooling off back to the north and northwest. Colder pool here, relatively or comparatively speaking, over the Gulf of Alaska with roughly 3,000 to 4,000 feet there. For the icing threats, moisture coming up, so rime icing definitely a possibility, an increased possibility over today for the North Gulf Coast from about Cape Yakataga in across Prince William Sound, and more so on the south coast of the Kenai Peninsula, back down across Kodiak Island. And with the upper level system up there, could be some maybe even clear icing there above 3,000 feet, but probably rime if it occurs at all. And this area sliding southward, so that's going to be exiting the eastern Aleutians. Best chance of seeing any icing will be tomorrow morning, and then it'll slip off to the south. Winds aloft are jet stream, main jet stream south of the state here, just catching the southern southeast coast a little bit. Otherwise, really light flow, 65 out of the northeast to 33,000 feet here over the southeast bearing. So moving on to 9,000 feet, light south to southeast flow here for the most part along the Panhandle, 5 to 15 knots, even lighter under high pressure over the eastern Gulf of Alaska and the northeast Pacific. But there's a band of east-southeast winds here right along the North Gulf Coast running at about 20 to 25 knots. Otherwise, light and variable for the interior. Northerlies 20 knots from the Bering Strait across St. Lawrence Island on down to the eastern Aleutians, but not too terribly strong at all. Southeast 20 across the Alaska Peninsula. And at 3,000 feet, again, we've got that easterly flow thing going on here right along the coastline, 20 to 25 knots all the way to the southern Kenai Peninsula. Falling back for Kodiak, 5 to 10 knots here over the eastern interior, maybe 15 to 20 as you head southwest, 25 knotters there right along the southwest coast. Northerlies 25 to 30, then dropping back to 20 knots as it heads down toward the central Aleutians. And turbulence, occasional moderate chop here, Kodiak Island, Fogneck Island, Kachemak Bay, across the Aleutian Range, southern Alaska Range, into the Kilbrook Mountains. Otherwise, nothing too serious anywhere else. Smooth for the interior, maybe some moderate chop for the west central Aleutians. And after the break, I'll be back to look at the marine forecasts.
After about a half-century of human spaceflight, radiation detection and predicting space weather events is still not an exact science. Unfortunately, we cannot accurately determine when large particle ejections, called coronal mass ejections, or CMEs, will occur. A large CME can contain billions of tons of matter that can be accelerated to several million miles per hour. At these speeds, particles can reach Earth in a very short period of time. When the particles reach us, they collide with our magnetosphere and create auroras over the polar regions. Although beautiful to watch, the events which lead to this phenomenon can be very damaging and dangerous to astronauts outside the protection of the magnetosphere. In fact, between the Apollo 16 and Apollo 17 moon missions, a large solar particle event occurred. If astronauts had been in space during the event, the doses of radiation they would have been exposed to could have produced severe health effects within a short time. This is one of the main reasons better radiation prediction and monitoring are a focus of study.
How much time do you have to predict solar flares?
Well, it's actually very difficult to predict space weather. Just as we have a very hard time predicting hurricanes and tornadoes here on Earth, it's very difficult to predict when a solar flare is going to happen. A lot of solar physicists around the world are working on that problem, but right now we don't take action with the crew until we measure an increase in radiation. We are looking at trying to predict when there's an all-clear period. That'll allow us perhaps to do an EVA on the surface of the moon when we know there's a 90% chance we won't have a bad solar flare within the next 2 days. Yeah, the sun has an 11-year cycle, and every 11 years it goes from solar minimum, 5.5 years later to solar maximum, and then back to solar minimum again. During solar minimum, there are very few sunspots, if any, and thus no solar flares. All the solar flares and solar particle events come out of the sunspots. During solar maximum, we have a lot of activity going on with the sun, and we have a lot of solar particle events. So during solar maximum, we're very active in mission control, trying to keep the crew from getting too much radiation from those events.
Is there a difference in the sources of radiation in space?
There actually is. From solar particle events, we can protect the crew from that type of radiation. From the galactic cosmic radiation, it's very heavy ions, high energy types of particles that we cannot shield against. It would take too much shielding and is cost prohibitive to put that much mass up there. And the reason we try to keep the crew's dose as low as reasonably achievable is because any increase in dose is directly proportional to an increase in the probability that they'll get a fatal cancer. And unlike many of the risks that astronauts are exposed to, and there are many, radiation is one of the few risks that they will carry with them the rest of their life.
Do you think our predictive models will change dramatically for future missions?
Okay, actually, I think they will get better. I believe that all of the science that's being done by all the solar physicists and the space physicists is going to lead to better predictive models. They're doing a lot of great work. They are launching a lot of new missions, and those missions are there to explicitly study the types of physics that will lead to these better models. As we prepare to go back to the moon and Mars, our team here at SRAG is extremely excited to be a part of that effort of keeping astronauts safe. For me and my team to be standing over in mission control when we step foot on the moon again would be one of the greatest achievements of my lifetime.
Space radiation is not typically harmful to us on Earth because the Earth's magnetic field extends thousands of miles out into space, helping shield us from the dangerous particles. Did you know that some astronauts from the Apollo mission through today have reported actually seeing radiation as flashes in their eyes? The flash the astronauts experience is space radiation zipping through their eyes like subatomic bullets. When the radiation strikes the retina, it triggers a false signal that the brain interprets as a flash of light. This is problematic because this radiation kills brain cells and also can trigger long-term problems such as cataracts, which is a clouding of the lens that focuses light on the retina. Research is now underway to help develop probes that can detect signs of cataracts in humans years before they become visible. Eventually, astronauts might carry such a probe with them on space missions, checking their eyes as they go.
Welcome back. Really light winds out of the south, 10 to 15 knots along the coast with seas just 6 feet. In the inside waters, northwest breeze, 10 to 15 knots, strongest across Clarence Strait. And then wind swinging around to the south for Northern Lynn Canal in the afternoon, coming up to just 15 knots. And for Thursday, a little bit more breeze up here for Northern Lynn Canal in the afternoon, south or southeast, give or take there, 20 knots, strongest again in the Northern Lynn Canal, 4-foot seas, otherwise southeast 15 on down toward Dixon Entrance. Along the coast, south 10 to 15, actually all the way up, and then turning a little more southeast here on the extreme north coast. But again, no small craft advisories with the seas under 8 feet. For the North Gulf Coast, we've got east-southeasterlies at about 20 knots to east of 20 for Prince William Sound, seas only at about 3 feet. And light northeasterlies there for Cook Inlet, but small craft advisories for Kachemak Bay, east 25, dropping back to 20 knots for the Barrens, east 20 Kodiak Island, even lighter in Shelikof Strait. And then for Thursday, south winds 15 here on the east side of Kodiak. No change to Shelikof Strait. Looks like the strongest winds will occur from the Barren Islands, then turn easterly in toward Kachemak Bay, only at about 20 knots with 4 to 6 foot seas. Otherwise light variable winds to east for Prince William Sound and Cook Inlet. Bristol Bay, small craft advisories for those 25 knot easterlies tomorrow, dropping back to about 20 here in the Bering Sea side of the peninsula, south 20 there from Cape Sarachev all the way up to Sitkinak, and even a little bit lighter there on that eastern zone. For Thursday, east 20 for Bristol Bay, and easterlies now for the Alaska Peninsula, 15 to 20 knots, strongest on the Pacific side with 8-foot seas, so small craft advisories there. Otherwise southeast 15 from Castle Cape to Sitkinak. Eastern Aleutians on Alaska Island on the north side, northeast 20, south side south 20, to the west, north to northwest at 15 to 20. 20 knotters there for the Adak-Atka area. 20 knot winds from the north and northwest extend all the way out to Shimya. So for Thursday, those turn northeast, fall back to 15 all the way east here and become more easterly there across the Fox Islands at about 15 to 20 knots. Seas all under 8 feet, so no small craft advisories. For the southwest coast, we've got 25 knot winds here north of Nunivak Island, back across St. Lawrence Island tomorrow. And down to 20 knots there for St. Matthew Island, northeast 20 for the Pribilofs, 5-foot seas, and a big swing around to the east here south of Nunivak Island at 20 knots with 4-foot seas. Then for Thursday, coming down, lighter winds, just 10 to 15 out of the north, Nunivak Island up across St. Lawrence to the Bering Strait, and northeast 15. Only 10 knots of the Pribilofs, and east winds 15 there south of Nunivak Island. Seas 3 to 4 feet. Up along the eastern Beaufort Sea coast tomorrow, northeast at 10, and turning easterly for the central coast, and picking up to 20 knots there on the west side, and turning north from Cape Beaufort to Cape Thompson, south of Cape Thompson, northwest of 20, and that'll probably turn more westerly and actually blow across Kotzebue Sound in towards Selawik. And for Thursday, those drop back to 20 knots, all out of the north here up to Cape Beaufort, northeast on the central and west side, east 15, all the way over to Demarcation Point. And looking at tonight's forecast, again, we're going to watch this front continue to push northward and bring moisture into northern Bristol Bay and inland, maybe or maybe not reaching the southern Kuskokwim Valley or Bethel as well, kind of on the outer edge there, with increasing rain, Prince William Sound, specifically the Kenai Peninsula on up toward Portage, with a lesser chance over toward Cordova. No change for the southeast coast, still looking at low clouds, pretty extensive right along the coastline there. Fair over the interior, not much in the way. Any of that convection will be dying off to just some isolated showers. Cold upper low over the northwest there keeps areas of light snow and clouds with maybe a risk of a shower over the Seward Peninsula. And then for tomorrow, that system, call it a cold front here, very weak back to the west, but south to north flow. Maybe some moderate rain both late tomorrow and again on Thursday for the southern Kenai Peninsula. Southeast flow keeps it dry over northern Cook Inlet and mostly sunny over the interior, and again for the Panhandle.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.